Hey guys, welcome to the channel. How you guys doing? To my new subscribers, I just want to use this special moment to thank you for subscribing. And to my old subscribers, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. Today we are going to be sewing this very beautiful dress. And in order to do that, I have two fabric here. The first one is a very thick crepe fabric, which is 1.5 years or 2 years depending on your body size and the length of the dress, while the second one is a black duchess that I'll be using for the design in front. So right here I have a piece of paper that I'll be drafting the dartless pattern on, and on that dartless pattern I'll be creating the design on it. So the width of the paper and the length of it is as shown. The length of it is actually how long my pattern paper is. It's not up to my dress length, but I'll be extending it on the fabric. So next I'll be marking my chest line measurements, my bust line measurements, my under bust measurements. We need the under bust measurements, is very important. And then the length of my waistline measurement. So because this is a dartless pattern, I'm going to be reducing my waistline by 1/2 inch. So instead of 16.5, I'll be marking 16 inches just to reduce bulginess at the back. I'll mark that 16 there, and then I'll mark my hip line measurements, which is 24.5, and then the length of the dress. So depending on the pattern paper that you have. So I'll just mark the same thing on the other side of the pattern, and I'll draw a straight line like so. So after doing this, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide my shoulder by 2. That is my shoulder measurement, and I'll mark it on the top line and on the chest line. I'll go down by 1 inch from that point, and I'll connect it like so, drawing a straight line. So on this other side, I'll mark 3 inches for my neck width, and I'll connect it to that point, and this will be the shoulder. So the distance for this line is 7, so I'll divide 7 by 2, which is 3.5, and I'll mark it there. And right here I'll mark 1/4 of my bust measurements on the chest line. So I'll go in by 1/2 inch for this point, and I'll use my free hand to connect it all the way to the chest line like so, drawing the armhole. If you have armhole curve, please use the armhole curve. So for the neckline, I just want to create exactly what is on the thumbnail, so I'll be going down by 4 inches, and I'll use my free hand to connect it to the neck width like as shown. The next thing now we are going to be doing is, after drawing the neckline, I'll be going in by 2 inches from the center front. This is not a standard measurement. I'm just trying to recreate exactly what we have on the thumbnail. So from that 2 inches, I went up by 1 inches from that point. That is 1 inch. And I also make sure that from that 1 inch point, I have 2 inches from that point. So I'll just mark it there like that. So after that, I'll go ahead and label the line so that I will not get confused, because this is the chest line, the bust line, the under bust line, and the waistline. We are going to mark in different things on each of these lines. So on the under bust line, I'll be going in by 1 inch, while on the waistline, I'll go in by 1.5 inches. So I'll use my French curve now, and I'll connect it from above the chest line all the way to the waistline like so. And this is what we have. So next I'll go down by 6 inches from the waistline, and I'll go in by 3.5 inches, and I'll use my free hand to just connect it like so, and I'll make sure I smoothen it out so that the curve will be well arranged. So after doing this, now I'm just going to be taking my body measurements. So on the chest line, I'll take 1/4 of my bust measurements, and I'll mark it there. On the under bust line, take your round bust measurements, 1/4 of it, and mark it there. While on your waistline, take your 1/4 of your waist measurements and mark it there. While on the hip line, you're going to mark 1/4 of your hip measurements and mark it there. So after marking out this point, you're just going to connect it with a straight rule like this. If yours is not straight, it's okay. Just make sure you get the accurate measurements and mark it at the points that is supposed to be marked. So I'll still use my rule to connect it to the hip line, and I'll curve it a little bit because it is the hip that we are trying to draw. So now on the length of the dress, depending on how long it is, I'm going to minus 1.5 inch from the hip measurement. So my hip measurement is, quarter of my hip measurement is 9.5. So minusing 1.5, that's 8 inches. So I'll just mark the 8 inches and I'll connect it with a straight rule. I'll also go ahead and curve these points as much as I can. If you have a hip curve, this will be very easy for you to do, so just do that. And then now we are going to go ahead to create the remaining design that we have in front. So in order to do this, I went in by 1 inch on the bust line, although I later changed this, but this is the first thing that I did. I went in by 1 inch and then I connected it with the French curve like so. But remember, like I said, I did not use this measurement. I later changed it, so you can skip this part completely till we get to where I made the correction. So while on the waistline, this part I did not change it, so you can go ahead with this part. So on the waistline, I went down by 2 inches and I connected it to the other points like so, using a French curve. So just pay attention to how I position the French curve while connecting. So I also went ahead to add a seam allowance to the dress all the way down to the length of the dress. So now I'm making a correction. So from the bust line, I went down by 1.5 inch and I went in by 1 inch. So I'll use my French curve. I'll draw a straight line from this point, connecting it like so, and I'll use a French curve also to connect it all the way to above the chest line like so. So at this point, I felt like this one looks similar to the thumbnail than the one that I did first. That's why I corrected it. The first one felt so big, but this one seems the perfect size, so that's why I used it. So now I'll just go ahead and cut it out like so. So we are still going to cut the down part as well. And now I've placed the pattern on the fabric and I've cut. For the front, I cut on fold and I added 1/2 inch sewing allowance to the point aside the armhole. So you can go ahead and cut half lining for the front as well. And now just also remember to notch the midpoints of the front. That is the place that is on fold. Notch it very well and open it up like so. So if you realize we did not draft the back pattern for this top, that's because I'll be using the front to cut for the back. So what I did was I placed the front on the fabric and I cut. Added 1/2 inch there. I added 1.5 inches for the side seam. And then for the zipper line, I added 1 inch and I did not cut on fold. While for the armhole, I added 1/2 inch from that midpoint. So where my tape rule is, that is the midpoint, I added 1/2 inch from that point and I connected it all the way from the shoulder down to the chest line like so. So just pay attention to how it looks. So while for the shoulder, I added 1/2 inch sewing allowance for the shoulder line. And then for the neckline, I went up by 2.5 inches from the front pattern and I cut like so, connecting it to the shoulder like so. So that's basically it. So now I'm just going to go in by 1/2 inch. This is me trying to reduce the bulginess that is at the back, and I'll go up by 6 inches and I'll connect it using a straight rule. So after that, I'll just go ahead and cut this out. This will reduce the bulginess from the back as much as possible. So from this point also, I'll still mark 1/2 inch. I'll come out by 2 inches from the side seam and I'll connect it like so. And then by the time you're done, you just open it up and this is what it looks like. So I've also gone ahead to cut the front skirt, that is the down part of the front, and I cut it on fold, and I also extended it depending on the length of the dress that I want. So the total length of the dress that I used is 47 inches. So for the back also, I used the front pattern to cut for the back, added 1/2 inch to the waistline points, added 1 inch seam zipper allowance, and I did not cut on fold, and I also extended the length of the dress for the back as well. So I'll do the same thing, just what I did for the bodies. I'm doing the same thing. That is the upper part of the dress. I'm doing the same thing. I went in by 1/2 inch, and from the hip line I went in by 2 inches. So I'll just connect it like this and I'll cut it off, as you can see. So this is the front. So I'll just open it up, and this is what we have for the front. So now when you are done cutting those parts, you're going to tape the bodies to the skirts like so, because now we want to cut out that design that we have in front. So in order to do this, just tape back the pattern paper like so. Then after taping it back, you're going to cut it off following the lines that I am showing you right now. So before cutting, you can still go ahead to measure the distance from the armhole to where the design starts from. So from that point is I have about 3.6 inches. So I'll just write it down there, so that by the time I'm placing it on the other part of the dress, I'll know exactly where to place it. So the distance for this point is 2 inches, while the distance from the neckline to the design is 3 inches from that point. So just take note of that so that you know exactly how to place it when you are done. So I'm done cutting out, and I'll just place it on the Duchess and I'll cut. If you have the floral fabric like it's in the thumbnail, you can go ahead and use that fabric, but this is what I have and this is what I'm using. So I'll just go ahead and add 1/2 inch sewing allowance to all round the pattern paper like so. So at this point now, I've not lined the neckline, by the way. So now I'll just go ahead and draw a straight line from the neckline all the way down to the waistline like so. And now I'll just remove this from the pattern paper, and this is what we have. So what I'll do now is I'll take this to the pressing iron and I'll fold it all around by 1/2 inch. That is the allowance that we added while cutting. So I'll just fold it and press all round, making sure that everything is 1/2 inch like so. While I'm doing that, I'll also go ahead and join the waistline of the front of the bodies to the waistline of the skirt. So just join both of them together at the waistline and sew using 1/2 inch sewing allowance. So I'm done sewing, and this is what it looks like. So now I've also gone ahead to iron all around, and this is what it looks like. So at this point now, I'm just going to be arranging this exactly where it's supposed to be. So if you notice, the waistline of the black fabric is on the waistline of the main fabric, and I'm measuring it, the 2 inches points that we marked and the 1 inch, just place it exactly where it's supposed to be and pin it down. So you can turn it to the wrong side and pin it down, and make sure you are measuring. So from the center front, measure the distance from the center front to the main fabric, which is 1.5 that we used earlier. And then for the hip line side, you also measure before you pin it down. So just make sure everything is exactly where it's supposed to be, as it was in the pattern paper. It's the same way it's going to be on the main fabric. I'll go ahead and sew it, and after sewing it from the inside, I'll notch it and I'll cut off the excess. So after sewing, I'll turn it to the right side, and this is what it looks like from the right side. So now I'll just go ahead and top stitch it for the down parts and for the up side like so. I've done the same thing on the other side as well. Please, if you have a hemming gum it so that you'll be able to sew it easily. I did not have hemming gum, so it took me a while before I was able to sew it. So for the lining, you can go ahead and join the neckline of the lining to the main fabric using 1/2 inch sewing allowance. While at this point, I've also gone ahead to join the bodies of the back to do the skirts, and I'll just go ahead and join the lining as well using 1/2 inch sewing allowance. So when you join the lining, you turn it to the right side and notch top stitch, and then I'll go ahead and add my zipper for the back as well. So sorry I did not show details of this, but I just assume you know how to add zipper to your dress at this point. So I'll just go ahead and join the front to the back at the shoulder, and I'll also join it at the side seam. So for the shoulder, please use 1 inch when you are joining so that you have a perfect fit at the shoulder line. That is for the armhole. While for the side seam, use the seam allowance that you left while cutting. So at this point, I'm done joining, and this is what it looks like. I've also gone ahead to cut a basic sleeve for this. I could not see what she did for this sleeve, but I'm assuming it's a basic sleeve, and go ahead to join it to the dress. And also I've gone ahead to create these buttons. I use the Duchess fabric to create the buttons, so you can do it yourself, or you can take it to the markets so that they'll do it for you. So I have about 11 buttons here, and I'm going to be sewing it with my hand needle. So after doing that, you just hem the dress, and that's basically all for today's video. Thanks for watching.